Tonight we will be telling you a tale of the legendary pirate captain Jonathan Sparrow and his mysterious ship, the Black Pearl. Let us begin.
Jack Sparrow.
Dawn of 1704, a merchant vessel docked at Lisbon, reporting it had been shadowed the whole way from the Azores by a ghost ship, a spectral bark whose sails were like curtains of smoke. They saw no flag, heard no cannon, only faint violin strings dancing through the fog. When they blinked, the ship was gone. But the crew found a single object on their deck the next morning, a silver ring shaped like a sparrow in flight. The captain resigned that very day, saying only, "He is watching again." By 1705, nations were changing their trade routes to avoid the waters near Cape Verde and Bermuda. A pattern had emerged. Wherever power gathered, gold shipments, secret naval meetings, royal convoys, there came reports of a ship that no navy could catch. And always afterward, chaos followed. One admiral wrote in his private journal, "He doesn't hunt for wealth, he hunts for the balance of things." Rumors spread of him assembling a crew not of men but of legends, a mute assassin from Siam, a Dutch navigator who sailed blindfolded, and a woman from the Barbary Coast who could charm storms. They were seen only in fragments, a boot print on volcanic sand, a broken cage of golden birds, maps rewritten in languages no longer spoken. Ports began refusing new sailors for fear they'd vanish chasing him. Then came 1707, the year of the Seven Isles Revolt. A series of minor colonies rose in rebellion against the East India Company, seemingly without coordination. But a few commanders noticed the same pattern. These scattered uprisings were using identical tactics, identical flags, and the same symbol carved into their weapons, a sparrow. Captured rebels were asked, who taught them? Many gave no answer. Some only smiled. One said, "We heard a voice." In the storm, that same year, a royal convoy, traveling from Madrid to the New World, vanished entirely. 3 galleons, 2 escort ships, and over 200 men. The Spanish government went silent. But a week later, a monastery in Seville was mysteriously burned to the ground. The only remaining object was a melted brass plate recovered from the ashes. It read, "We do not fear kings." In 1708, a strange ship was seen off the coast of Senegal. It made no sound and left no wake. The local tribes called it the Sea Shadow. Fishermen claimed it could pass beneath their boats like a whale and vanish into the sand. Some even said it flew or turned into birds. One thing was consistent. When it appeared, slave ships never reached their ports. That same year, in a town in southern India, an entire British trade office was found abandoned. No signs of struggle. No bodies. Only ink trails across the floor leading out to sea, and a message scratched into the walls. You cannot own the wind. In 1709, an old woman appeared at the gates of the Tower of London, carrying a tattered journal bound in red leather. She claimed it once belonged to Jonathan Sparrow. The guards arrested her, but not before the journal was passed to a young historian. The entries inside were fragmented, cryptic, half delirious, filled with drawings of compasses that spun on their own, islands made of bone, and a sea where time moved backward. One phrase appeared more than once: "You cannot cage the sea, you can only pretend to sail it." The journal vanished days later, so did the historian. Some say he joined the crew. Some say he became the new cartographer of the Black Pearl. By the time 1710 arrived, the Black Pearl was a name spoken with awe and dread across 3 continents. No fleet could catch it, no sailor could forget it. Some thought it was a ship possessed. Others said it was just the sea's own shadow, summoned when men tried to chain it. So that year, a storm formed off the coast of Martinique. Unnatural. That's what the records say. Otter hovered for 6 days, unmoving, while ships and men disappeared into it. Survivors described a voice in the lightning, a laugh in the thunder. And then, when it finally moved, it carved a line through the sea, as if something massive had passed beneath it. In the middle of that storm, a royal scribe wrote this in a letter: "He does not steal, he rebalances, takes what was hoarded and returns it to the ocean. He is not a pirate, he is a reckoning. In early 1711, children in coastal towns across West Africa began singing a new lullaby. No one knew its origin. The words made no sense, gibberish to the British, but local elders recognized the rhythm. It was an old sailor's code used to signal freedom. The same pattern was found etched into the docks of a French colony weeks later. The colony that had mysteriously emptied overnight. A young boy in Barbados claimed a man had visited him in a dream, offering him a broken compass and telling him, "Find your own true north, not theirs." The East India Company grew desperate. They commissioned a secret fleet, 12 ships armed with experimental weapons manned by the best sailors in the empire. They called it Operation Leviathan. Their mission, to hunt down and destroy the Black Pearl and whoever commanded her. Only one ship returned, burned, half sunk, and the captain missing his tongue. The survivors didn't speak. They only handed over a coin. One side bore the mark of the company. The other a sparrow, wings cracked, beak open in song. It was that year that Jonathan T. Sparrow disappeared. No more sightings, no more letters, no more legends confirmed. But in 1712, a message in a bottle washed ashore in Ireland. Had no coordinates, only a torn piece of parchment. A drawing of an island shaped like a skull, and beneath it, the sea forgets nothing. In 1714, a church in Rome received a sealed chest. Inside were 24 rings, each once worn by Sparrow. They were placed before the Pope with no message, no demand. But one letter, unsigned, followed days later. It read, "What was stolen has been returned. You may pray in peace, but not in silence." In the years that followed, sightings continued, though none confirmed. An old man with a strange walk seen boarding a Dutch ship before it disappeared. A foreigner playing a flute on the cliffs of Scotland as a storm rolled in. A trader in Alexandria who wore a coat sewn with bones and laughed at nothing in particular, and always the grin. Some say he died. Others believe he became part of the sea itself, not drowned, but absorbed. They say when waves crash in strange rhythms, that's him speaking. When ships vanish without a trace, he's calling them home. One sailor, old and blind, once said to a boy, "He ain't gone, lad. He just learned how to sail through time." To this day, treasure hunters still search the islands he once haunted. They find strange objects, bones carved with directions, compasses that spin in circles, coins that melt when touched. None return with riches, but all return with stories. Some historians have tried to dismiss him, say he never existed, that his name was a tool of fear or hope or both. That there was no Jonathan Sparrow, only a myth invented by dreamers and rebels. But deep in the vaults of a forgotten library in Morocco, there exists a single page, a record, a tax ledger from 1702. One entry, paid in full. Name, Jonathan T. Sparrow. Profession, seaborne troublemaker. Not pirate, not sailor, just troublemaker. And in the margin, written in ink too faded to notice, someone had scribbled, "Always, always grinning." And so ends the tale of Jonathan Sparrow and his mysterious ship, the Black Pearl. What do you think about this story? Tell us in the comments below. Please like and share if you enjoyed listening. We'll see you next time. Till then, keep listening. When Blackbeard was hanged, Captain Teague Sparrow wasn't there. He was at sea. When England came to war with France, he didn't fight for the crown. He fought for himself. He was sailing south when news arrived that the seas were changing. The British and French were fighting over islands that smelled like gold and spices. But Sparrow didn't care about flags or fortunes. He cared about freedom. He wanted an island of his own, an island where he could hide. Hide from the past, hide from the future, and most importantly, hide from the people who wanted him dead. Off the coast of Florida, he found it. It was an island without a name, so he gave it one. Providence. Providence. To get there, you had to sail through a narrow channel. If you didn't know the tides, you'd be smashed against rocks. If you weren't careful, you'd run into shallows that tore the bottoms clean out of your ships. And on the island, dangers waited. Thickets that tore your clothes and bled your skin. Creatures that stalked in the dark and not enough fresh water to sustain more than a few dozen men. It was perfect. He anchored the Pearl in a cove hidden by cliffs and sent a letter to the mainland. He wrote that he was retired that he was staying out of sight, and that no one should come looking for him. Then he locked the letter in a bottle and threw it into the waves. But after 5 days, he felt restless. One evening, he set sail for Jamaica. He needed supplies, a little company, and maybe some music. As the Pearl approached the shore, he looked up and saw a familiar face hanging on the bowsprit of a warship warden, James, the man who had chased him from town to town, offering him no quarter and forgetting no crime. He was a prisoner of circumstance, tethered to the rigging by chains. The warship was captured, the crew was dead, and there he was, flapping in the wind. With a grin, Sparrow turned the ship around and sailed back to Providence. His next stop was Nassau. In the Bahamas, when he arrived, the place was a mess. There was a civil war brewing, mutinous sailors everywhere, and a king's ship on fire. After a quick chat with the governor, he learned that Woodes Rogers was there. The man who had captured his ship, the man who had stolen his fortune, the man who had put a price on his head. Sparrow hid in Nassau, watching Rogers prepare to leave. He watched him restock, refit, and rearm, knowing that the moment he showed himself, the cannons would open fire. But he didn't have to wait long. That night, during the brief pause between war and dawn, he slipped onto the docks, and in the shadow of the gibbet, he cut the moorings. The Pearl drifted out to sea while Rogers slept. In the morning, he was gone. The governor swore vengeance, the pirates cheered, and Rogers awoke to find himself marooned in the Bahamas with a handful of loyalists. Sparrow sailed the Pearl for 2 years. He traded with the Spanish in Havana. He raided English settlements in the Carolinas, and he haunted the gold convoys along the coast of Africa. Everywhere he went, stories went with him. Tales of his daring, of his skill, of his unbelievable luck, and whispers of a darker sort. Men who followed him, men who crossed him, and men he met in taverns all told the same story. He didn't seem human, could predict ship movements before they happened. Storms changed course to let him pass, and when he walked into a room, everyone inside knew he was there, whether they looked or not. Most dismissed them as lies. Others believed. And some became his followers, drawn to his brilliance and the promise of endless riches. In 1708, he returned to Providence. He was older now. The endless grin was gone, and in its place was something colder, harder, sharper. Those who had joined him expecting glory found themselves on an island with no hope of escape. They built huts in the thicket. They scoured the beaches for coconuts. Whenever they talked about leaving, he reminded them that they were free. Free from governors and kings. Free from armies and alliances. Free to do whatever they wanted without fear of punishment. Because the only law on the island was his. The rest of the world could call him a monster, a villain, a demon, anything it pleased. Here he was God, and if any of his flock disagreed, he banished them, naked and alone, to the empty ocean. For a while, no one disturbed him. The French and English fought each other, battled across continents, and burned each other's ships. Meanwhile, he explored the unknown parts of the Caribbean, searching for reefs that glittered with emeralds or mountains filled with silver. And with every voyage, he grew richer, more powerful, and more ruthless. In 1712, a pirate hunter arrived on Providence. His name was Lionel Town. He was there to arrest Captain Jack Sparrow, alive or dead. He knew about the island. He'd heard the legends. He chased rumors. And now he stood on the beach, ready to end it all. Sparrow welcomed him with a smile, invited him to stay as long as he liked, and promised him a warm reception from his men. Town refused, and in the end, he paid for his arrogance. The pirates ambushed him, stripped him naked, and strung him up on the gibbet. Then they left him there to die. It didn't take long. The sun beat down on the hard wood, the rain pulled moisture from his skin, and before sunset, Lionel Town was begging for mercy. He promised to give Sparrow anything he wanted, anything at all. But he didn't care. By the next morning, Town was dead. In the afternoon, he held court. The pirates gathered around listening as he spoke, of conquest, of fortune, of an empire hidden from the world. But something had changed him. Something darker now pulsed in his eyes. Something hungrier. In 1713, he was at war. Not with the English or the Spanish, but with the French. On New Caledonia, the battle lasted for hours. Knives flashed. Cannons roared. And when it was done, the flagship was smoking and listing badly. Sparrow finished them off with a boarding axe, then dragged the treasure ashore. The fighting spread to the Lesser Antilles, to Madagascar and the Red Sea. Pirate hunters followed him, scratching out victories but never taking him alive. His enemies started calling him the Reaper, but they didn't know why. He wasn't afraid of death, he was afraid of running out of worlds to conquer. In 1717, he discovered something that changed everything. One of his men returned from Madagascar with a strange book, bound in leather, smelling of cinnamon and secrets. Inside were charts and tables and diagrams that revealed how to navigate anywhere on Earth. He learned more than he ever imagined possible. He learned how to track stars, how to catch winds, and how to calculate distances. And slowly, he understood why he'd been spared all those years ago. Why he'd survived battles and shipwrecks and prison cells. Someone or something had been protecting him, guiding him toward this moment. Whatever power it was, he now controlled it. He wasn't just a pirate anymore. He was something more. He was a navigator, and as long as he lived, no force on earth could stop him. In 1718, the governor of Jamaica offered him a noble title and land if he surrendered. The King of Spain offered him nobility and a noble bride. The Queen of England offered him pirates, pardon, and untold riches. But he laughed at all of them. He had no use for titles. He had no need for money. He certainly had no interest in dying in a jail cell. He continued to roam, seeking out new adventures, conquering new challenges. And with him went the legends, growing larger and more fantastic with each telling, until the very mention of his name was enough to strike fear into the hearts of men. He was the master of the seas. He was the terror of the waves. He was Captain Jack Sparrow, Blackheart, Pirate Lord.